Chandelier by Sire. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM, unless you're on insanityradio.com/listen, in which case you're watching Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. Yes, sir, we have gone visual. First ever live video stream from me. It's now officially a video radio stream show thing. We have count them, three 1080p cameras in the studio, one covering the presenter chair, right there. Presenter chair, right there. We have the guest camera over that side. There is no guest in the studio today, so maybe there won't be a guest camera today. It's the main one. Overview of the entire studio right there, rocking on. This is awesome. On Friday this week, Insanity Radio received the Gold Award for the Best Technical Achievement at the Student Radio Awards. Jamie Woods, the head of computing and general technological genius, is the mastermind behind the new setup. It's still in its infancy at the moment, so there might be a few wrinkles to iron out in the near future, but as long as the mic's alive, the camera's alive. Rock on. As we start to realise the potential and new opportunities that video streams have to offer for the sake of Insanity Radio, it's hoped that more and more presenters will jump on board and live stream their shows in the future, so keep a weather eye open. Aye, indeed. I have mentioned this show to a community that I've been involved with for 3 years now, called Twitch. So I am hoping that a few people might pop up and say howdy doodly. If you're listening or watching the live video stream, let me know. Tweet into the studio at Insanity Radio and throw in a song request. Ask for a shout out or just say hello. I'll be here for the next hour. In the next link, I'll be talking a little bit about the Twitch community and what it actually is, because I've had a lot of people asked me that question before, and later I'll be sharing some words that have had their meanings changed throughout the ages of the English language. I am White Shadow. Stay tuned. You're listening to Insanity.
Once I was a young man.
Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. Before that, we had Handbags and Glad Rags by Rod Stewart. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM, unless you are on insanityradio.com/listen, in which case you are watching Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. Rock on. Now, before the show, earlier in the show, because before the show I did very, very little. Earlier in the show, I mentioned that I was going to explain a little bit about the Twitch community that I've been involved with for the past 3 years, as I'm hoping I can start luring onto my show a little more into the future. That Twitch is ultimately a gaming streaming community online. It's at twitch.tv. And, I mean, Twitch describes itself as the world's leading social video service in community video game culture. And I mean, it's the perfect place. A long time ago, I used to be able to say it's the perfect place to go and meet people who enjoy the same kind of games and just share a few strategies and get talking and just making a few friends. But, I mean, they've started diversifying into areas other than games. I have a few facts about Twitch with me at the moment that I'm going to share with you. It launched in 2011, and in the first month of it being live, Twitch amassed more than 8 million unique users. The site at the moment has more than 58 million users in total, with an average of about 15 million visitors every day. It accounts for more than 43% of all live video streaming traffic by volume around the world. It's ranked at number 4 in the internet traffic, only been beaten by Netflix and Facebook, and I can't remember what the other one was right now. And for some streamers, because you have the option of subscribing to your streamers, you can have the option of having subscriptions that give you all sorts of perks that are decided by the streamer themselves. But it could be something like giving priority to get into the games with them. It could be unique emotes, or it may be even following you on other social media networks so that you can sort of become more friends and communicate more, and maybe even plan strategies to beat the next enemy in Call of Duty community. That would be fun. But it can be a lucrative business for some of the top professional gamers on Twitch. They're some of the best streamers, the most professional top players, and especially in the competitive world, can earn sort of upwards of over £100,000 a year just through their live streams. But it's not all about games anymore. There's a creative channel that came online, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, I'm struggling to remember now, which was originally game-related fan art and cosplay, but again, that sort of moved away from that and into any kind of general creative arts. And, I mean, you can sit there and watch and talk to people and learn a bit about painting, drawing, sculpting, building, sewing, composing, cooking. I mean, I know one streamer by the name of Abby. She's an absolute diamond, and she quite often does a crochet knitting with creating. I think last time I was watching, she was making one of the Pokemon characters, and I mean, she'll sit there and sometimes she'll invite other people onto the stream to help teach them to do some crochet. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. You have to go check it out. It's amazing. I mean, IRL in real life was one of the most requested categories that was put on, again, I think it was just over a year ago, which allows you to vlog pretty much whatever is on your mind. You can just sit there and just chat in general with your followers, with your friends, with the community. And yeah, I mean, it's just an amazing thing. It really is. I've made a lot of friends there, and I'm hoping I can lure one or two of them into Insanity. So if you are one of the Twitchers who I have been tweeting over the last few weeks, and you're watching or listening to Insanity Radio right now, please do let me know. Tweet into the studio at Insanity Radio. And the amazing thing about Twitch is nearly half the users spend more than 20 hours a week watching live streams, and there's usually just over 600,000 simultaneous viewers at any given time of day or night. But the most fascinating aspect of it for me is the fact that a lot of the streamers, they go through phases, or sometimes it's ongoing, that they'll help try to raise funds for charity, that they'll promote a charity that's close to their heart in the stream on their channel. And since its launch back in 2011, the Twitch community have raised more than £65 million for charity organisations. That's just over £10 million a year raised in charity funds for various organisations, and that is absolutely amazing. But I feel like I have been talking way too much, so I'm going to throw on a few tunes. We're going to have Call on Me by Eric Prydz. Prydz sounds good. Let's go with that. Does Your Mother Know by ABBA. Before that, we were listening to Call on Me by Eric Prydz. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow. And just remember, if you're on insanityradio.com/listen and you've hit that watch live button, you will be watching Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. We have gone visual, and hopefully there will be more footage live streaming on YouTube in the near future. Earlier in the show, I said I was going to share a few words that have had their meanings change over the years in the English language. For example, I'm going to dive straight in there with bunny, which derives from bun, and bun was originally an old English word for a squirrel, not a rabbit, and I cannot find any information that kind of hints at when it transitioned from meaning squirrel to rabbit. So if you know more, please do tweet into the studio at insanityradio.com and let me know. Again, fantastic originally meant existing only in the imagination, or in other words, unreal or based on fantasy. And I can't find any information on when this might have changed or how this might have changed either. So again, if you want to be today's genius, tweet into the studio at Insanity Radio and fill me in with some amazing details. So nowadays, when we say we're down in the dumps, we mean that we're feeling gloomy, low-spirited. But the word dump was originally an old Tudor English word for an absent-minded daydream, or a dazed state of mind, not a depressive one. It's amazing how so many words can be changed to so many different things over just a few generations. I mean, jargon was originally a word for birds chirping, which is how it's used in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. And because the noises made by birds are unintelligible, It came to mean senseless or incomprehensible language. Naughty originally meant to have nothing when it appeared around 600 years ago, literally just naught, zero, nothing. This moved into meaning having no morals. That like wicked, depraved, vicious, and that's eventually softened into mischievous or disobedient. And the word speechless in Old English originally meant mute, like physically unable to speak. The figurative sense, the stunned into silence, emerged in the Middle English period, presumably first used again by Chaucer. And speaking of words that have originally, been transitioned from famous writers at some point or another, the word punk is an interesting one too. Nobody knows for sure exactly where it came from, but the earliest use in the English was another word for prostitute, which is how it was used in Shakespeare's Measure for Measure. Then it became used to mean a petty criminal and moved into meaning a disreputable person or an outcast in the inexperienced person. One more. I'm going to share one more because I'm tripping over my words right now. So I'm going to put on a few more tunes in a minute, but one more. To thrill. The word thrill originally meant to pierce a hole into something, which means your nostrils technically are your nose thrills. But the modern meaning of excite or affect is a more recent development dating from the 1500s. Once again presumed by Shakespeare's doing, that implies that something thrilling has the ability to affect someone very deeply. That's thrilling. Let's put on some music. This is too exciting. Wake Me Up Before You Go by Wham. Before that, we had Under Pressure with Queen and David Bowie. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM, unless you're on insanityradio.com/listen with a watch now, watch live button. Yes, watch live. You are watching Insanity Radio 103.2 FM, and I am still struggling to string a sentence together. Yippee! I am White Shadow, and today is November the 12th, the 316th day of the year, with 49 days left until the end of the year, which means there are only 43 days left until Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. On this day in 1439, Plymouth, England became the first town incorporated by the English Parliament. On this day in 1910, we had the first possible movie stunts performed, which was a man jumping into the Hudson River from a burning hot air balloon. A burning hot air balloon, yes. 1933, the first known photo of the so-called Loch Ness Monster was taken. In 1936, on this day, the first ever TV gardening show, In Your Garden, was shown on BBC TV. And in 1981, the first successful crossing of the Pacific was completed by a hot air balloon. This one didn't burn down. It was called Double Eagle 5, and it was not involved in any kind of jumping into river stunts. In 2016, on this day, Jackie Chan was awarded honorary Oscar for his film achievements at the 8th Annual Governors Awards ceremony. And just 1 year later, on this day in 2017, White Shadow brought you some fascinating facts, tantalising topics, and marvellous music. Big shout out to Ryan Gosling and Anne Hathaway, who are celebrating their birthdays today. Ryan Gosling turns 37, I believe, and Anne Hathaway is now 35. Rock on. Now, earlier in the show, I was sharing some words that have had their meanings changed over the generations, and I've got a few more here. I've got ambidextrous, which it means you're able to use both your hands as well as you can your right or your left if you're left-handed. Ambidextrous means you can use both equally. Yeah, but it's not the original meaning. When we first started using the word in the mid-16th century, an ambidexter was someone who took bribes from both sides in a legal action, and ambidextrous originally meant two-faced. Interesting. The use of cheap to mean low cost dates back about 500 years. That might not sound very recent, but the earliest record of the word cheap in any context dates back to around the 9th century, when it originally meant something along the lines of trade or bargaining or marketplace. Yeah, to cheapen something originally meant to ask how much it cost. Interesting. I'd love to know how that ended up changing to mean something that isn't as expensive. Now, bizarrely, the word girl was originally gender neutral and could be used in the same way we would use the word child or kid. Its meaning didn't begin to become more specific until the 15th century, after the word boy, which originally meant a male servant or assistant, was adopted into the English, possibly from French, and effectively stole half the meaning of girl. That's very interesting. Okay, I'm going to go to a short break now. I'm going to share a few more after a few more tunes. So let's rock on with some Karma Chameleon, shall we? We all love the Culture Club. Oh, yeah. Stay tuned to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. All Star by Smash Mouth. Before that, we were listening to Karma Chameleon by Culture Club. You are listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM, unless you're tuned in insanityradio.com/listen, in which case you might be watching Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. Gee, I have never said that before. I am White Shadow, and throughout the show I've been sharing some words that have had their meaning changed throughout the ages of transition. English language has changed so much over so many generations, but I've got 3 more here I'm going to share before I go. We have the word nervous, which originally meant sinewy or muscly, powerful or vigorous, and back in the 15th century, a nervous person would be one with bulging muscles who appeared visibly strong. But before long, nervous came to refer to the impulses and disorders that affected the nerves. And ultimately, by the 1700s, it just meant anxious or nervous. Irony. Okay, yes, this is an interesting one. This one surprised me when I was looking into this. The word nice derives from a Latin word, nisius, meaning ignorant or not knowing, and that was its original meaning when it came to be used in English around the start of the 14th century. Over the years, nice has been knocked around so much. It's picked up an impressively wide range of meanings along the way. It has meant ostentatious. It has meant prim, hard to please, cultured, cowardly, lazy, pampered, shy, insubstantial, and dainty. Before it finally settled on its current meaning in around the 1700s. And the word rival. Rival comes from the same roots as the words like river. When it first appeared in English in the 15th century, it was another name for a shoreline or the riverbank. The modern sense of competitor or opponent is presumed to come from the fishermen competing over the best fishing waters. In fact, the Latin equivalent, rivalis, was historically used to describe someone who lived on the opposite side of a riverbank. Have I got time for one? I have got time for one more. I have a whole minute and 20 seconds left of my show today. So I am going to use the word livid. Livid is the last word I have today. Describing something as livid originally meant that it was a grey-blue colour, like slate. It originally meant bruised or discoloured back in the early 1600s, and it was in the 1920s that it came to mean furiously angry, in the sense of, all the colour draining from someone's face. I'm still fascinated by how many words have changed over the years. I've had a message into the studio earlier on from Bob, who says the word threshold has had its meaning changed. So I will have to look into that. I recommend you do too. Let's find out at some point or another in the near future what threshold. Maybe I'll share it in the next show. You have been listening to White Shadow on Insanity Radio 103.2 FM, or watching. I won't go there again. You may have been watching, in which case, hi. So, stay tuned, because we're going to have the Student Radio Association chart shows for the next 2 hours. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the messages. You have all been totally awesome. And that's it. Until next time, until next week, have fun, enjoy, and rock on.